The Attack on Titan manga has ended. Chapter 139 has come out and opinions are divided. What actually happened there? Let's go! The last chapter brings us the story from Eren's perspective. Finally, we are first shown a discussion that Armin and Eren had. It appears that Eren talked individually with each of his friends, explaining what he will do, and then erased their memories. These conversations show us how sad Eren's story really is. He had no one to talk to or no one to get advice from. From his conversation with Armin, we find out why Eren did all that he did. Realizing that Eldians and Paradis will be in danger as long as there are Titans, he decides to start the rumbling and make himself a villain in the eyes of the world. After that, Eren masterminded a plan where he will be the villain and his friends will be the heroes who get to kill the villain. That would make Armin and the rest of the Eldians saviors for the rest of the world. Maybe then the rest of the world will be ready to acknowledge Eldians as actual human beings. In anime fandom, this is called a Lelouch route, named after the main character from anime Code Geass. Code Geass. Yes, because Lelouch was the first one to actually think of a plan like this. The ending like this is expected, and fans have foreseen the ending like this many years before. In his talk with Armin, we get a few truly touching scenes. Eren takes him to the places they have discussed many years before. Rivers of flame, deserts of snow, etc. Another truly touching scene is when they tearfully hug, something we haven't seen for a long time between these two friends. But what does Eren say to Armin? What is the actual reason for him to start the rumbling and go the whole Lelouch route? It turns out that Eren finds out in the past, once he has touched Ymir, that Ymir was actually in love with the original King Fritz this whole time. Young Ymir Fritz is actually a victim of a Stockholm syndrome. We also find out that the chosen one to save Ymir is not Eren, it's actually Mikasa. We get confirmation that Eren was actually controlled this whole time, and the mastermind of it all was Ymir, including the events that happened that day in Shiganshina and the death of Eren's mother. For someone that was supposed to represent the ideal of freedom, this is a very ironic outcome, because it really does turn out that he was controlled this whole time, without freedom. And why is Mikasa the chosen one by Ymir and not Eren? Well, since Ymir loved King Fritz so much, she was devoted to him and served him even after death, for thousands of years in the past. For that whole time, Ymir was expecting and wanting someone to come and rescue her from her demented relationship and servitude. And the only way this could possibly happen is for another woman that is also a victim of a tragic love to make a cut, literally, and free herself and Ymir from the shackles of wrong love. A woman to rescue Ymir is Mikasa. Parallels between Ymir's tragic love for Fritz with Mikasa's tragic love for Eren is quite clear. But the difference is that Mikasa did what Ymir never could do, which is to give up the toxic and abnormal relationship. Mikasa did this in the last chapter when she beheaded Eren. That is why in the last panel we find smiling Ymir. Finally, someone succeeded in something that she couldn't do for thousands of years. This kind of development is okay, but it is definitely a far cry from anything that fans actually expected and wanted. Not only that, it turns out that Eren was lying this whole time, and that he was actually in love with Mikasa. The panel where Eren confirms his love for Mikasa broke the hearts of many a fan, mostly because it turns out that Eren did a Lelouch route, not because he really wanted to, but because Ymir said so. Even Armin makes a comment how pathetic this whole thing is. If that's the case, then what are we readers supposed to think? Eren proclaims his love for Mikasa, and also he proclaims that he murdered 4/5 of the world, and that he was practically remote controlled by Ymir ever since he was born. In hindsight, I'm very happy Armin punched him straight in the face. Some of the dialogue is really difficult to swallow, but Armin's comment to Eren, "Thank you for becoming a mass murderer on our behalf," is so badly written, and it almost reads like a parody of Isayama and not an original work. After that, we see Titans disappear and everyone return to their previous form. Interesting thing to note is that if all the Titans actually returned to human form, does that count for all the colossal Titans around the world? Are they also transformed into confused little people who run around the world that has been rumbled? Isayama never really taught this true. Mikasa and Armin cry over dead Eren, and they decide to bury him under the tree where they once played as children. That tree is also the source of the leaf that Armin saw in the paths. Mikasa disappears into the distance. Exactly where, it is unknown, because for hundreds and thousands of miles there is only a wasteland. But okay, Mikasa walks away into the sunset. Also, Falco can finally have his happy ending with Gabi, another murderer that never faced punishment. Now that Eren is dead and Ymir is free, there are no more Titans. So the power of the founding Titan disappeared, which means that everyone remembered their little talk with Eren, which includes Annie for some reason. The most important thing here is that Annie, another murderer that got off scot-free, gets a happy ending. But the conflicts don't stop there. The remaining Marlians point their rifles at the Eldians. But fear not, the powerful Arumin is there to show the world that they are no longer Titans, and to proclaim proudly that he was the one to kill Eren Yeager. It is now quite safe to assume that of all the characters, Isayama preferred and forced Armin the most. The only truly Kino scene in this chapter is about Levi, as he sees his fallen comrades from the scouting corps, and for the second time in his life, he throws a salute and honors their hearts that they have devoted. A powerful, touching, and logical scene that we shall remember. Now, imagine if we got an ending that was 40 pages of this quality. What an ending that would be. But Japanese writers really suffer when it comes to writing an ending for their stories. After that, we get a 3-year time skip, and we see Historia with her child and the farmer. The one thing that is absolutely certain is that the complete all-around winner of this whole story is this farmer right here. This panel confirms without a doubt that the farmer is the father of Historia's child, and it is a great slap in the face to all the fans, because it turns out that the whole part of the story concerning Historia's pregnancy was literally pointless. There are a lot of story threads that never got resolved in this story, but they are so plentiful that they truly deserve their own video. In the epilogue, we find out that the Eldians formed their own army and they are improving their island technologically. And yes, in order to win, you need to fight. Tatakai. I never heard such an original thought ever since Reiner transferred his consciousness in his ass in order to survive. Be that as it may, we see X-shifters and the scouting corps fighters as they go into a diplomatic mission. Here we get a bit of really good and funny humor, and also a confirmation that Reiner is a pervert. Nothing new there, I guess. We see Levi as he hangs around with Gabi and Falco in London, I guess. And also, worry not, the black guy of the story survived. Armin and his crew thoughtfully sail into the sunset, and that's all we get from them. The chapter ends with a truly touching scene that I personally really like. It shows Mikasa next to Eren's grave. A bird flies to her, and that bird wraps the scarf around her neck for the last time. Symbolism between birds and Eren were numerous, and I believe that these are really beautiful and appropriate final panels of this manga. What can you say about it in the end? For many people, this ending was not satisfying, and for many others, it was good enough. My opinion is that the show drastically changed and shifted tone ever since they reached the ocean. For better or for worse, it is a difficult question, but a major shift occurred. The initial main appeal of this whole story was a fight against monsters and striving to escape the walls, this damn bird cage. Such a setup is very close to people from the Balkans, where many of us desperately struggle to escape from our own personal bird cages and from our own personal monsters that stop us in doing so. That is, in part, why Attack on Titan struck such a chord with people from this area. It was very easy to identify with the characters, with their fears, longings, and their struggles and wishes. After we reached the ocean, the story changed so much. It did bring us a couple of truly amazing moments, unforgettable in both manga and anime. But simply put, this kind of ending, and especially a couple of arcs that ended the manga, are not satisfying enough. In best case scenario, the ending is barely good enough. But keep in mind that Isayama produced for over a decade a chapter each month, tirelessly, and it is somewhat understandable that in some segments the story will suffer. The thing that will remain with us eternally is the story that we felt connection with, the story we fell in love with. Titans will always have a special place in our hearts, and as such, they do deserve all the praise that they get, and they deserve to be reread and rewatched over and over. The overall quality of this story is so high that you can overlook some of the faults concerning the end. The most important thing here is that we haven't dedicated our heart in vain, and that is the only thing that truly matters. Shinzo wo Sasageru. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social networks. Check out other videos on the channel. That's it. See you next time. Bye bye.